It is April 7th, 2014, and this is Real Time Real Talk, where we discuss 5 of the biggest news stories of the week regarding film. We're also going to take a look at 5 of the biggest and or most interesting trailers of the week in Trailer Corner. So let's not waste any time, let's get right into the headlines. If you're like most of America, you're sick of hearing about Frozen and its unrelentingly catchy musical numbers. However, take comfort in the fact that all the craze is finally starting to pay off. Frozen smashed records this week by becoming the highest-grossing animated film of all time, raking in a worldwide total of just under $1.1 billion. This also officially makes Frozen the 10th highest-grossing movie ever, just under The Dark Knight Rises. Additionally, it is Walt Disney Animation Studios' first billion-dollar film. This can be added to the achievements already made previously, including the biggest opening weekend of any Thanksgiving movie ever, beating out the original record holder, Pixar's Toy Story 2. Yeah, I kind of saw this coming. Frozen is probably the biggest movie that Disney has had in years. I mean, the biggest one I can think of recently was Toy Story 3, and that was Pixar. As far as Disney itself, I mean, if you want to count Princess and the Frog as a hit, I mean, it technically was, but that's not one that people, I think, are going to talk about as much as Frozen in the foreseeable future. I feel like a lot of America and a lot of the world has already largely forgotten about Princess and the Frog. And really, since the 90s, we haven't had a Disney movie with this sort of impact. I think the last ones were like Aladdin, Lion King, Mulan, Hercules, stuff like that. As far as the 2000s go, I mean, you had Lilo and Stitch, and you had The Emperor's New Groove, but nothing that was really that big of a punch. Nothing that was really that substantial as Frozen has been. So the fact that that it's, you know, shattering all these records, it really isn't a surprise to me. And honestly, I think it's deserved. You know, Frozen is definitely. I love Frozen. I think it's definitely one of Disney's best in a long time. I think it deserves the status that it has. And honestly, it's kind of slowly working its way up the list of my favorite Disney films of all time. There are a few contenders. It's tough for it to beat, but it's definitely getting up there. After the wildly successful run made by the Harry Potter film series, it was no surprise when the announcement was made that J.K. Rowling was investing in a spin-off film. The spin-off film in question was called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It was announced this week that what was thought to be a standalone film will now become a trilogy. Fantastic Beasts is following Twilight, The Hunger Games, The Hobbit, and its own predecessor Harry Potter in the line of franchises which split a story initially meant for one film into multiple parts. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is taken from a textbook used within the Harry Potter universe at Hogwarts, and the films will follow the book's author, Newt Scamander, on an epic quest which takes place 70 years before the events of Harry Potter. Again, this is another story I saw coming because fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, Hollywood seems to be becoming obsessed with the idea of splitting a larger story into 2 parts. And in some cases, it's actually for the better. I thought that made Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, parts 1 and 2, each better films because, you know, for a long time with the Harry Potter film series, so much of the gripes with the movies were coming from the fans of the books, who were saying, you know, there was so much left out, there was so much there in the book that was not represented in the film or was represented very poorly. So in the case of Harry Potter, it was definitely a smart move to, you know, split it up into 2 parts so you could get as much as possible out of the book. Here, however, I mean, since this is not based off of an actual real-life book, it could go either way. It really could, because there's really no reason why it couldn't work, as long as, especially since J.K. Rowling is writing the script. I don't think there's too much worry about it being overblown or being drawn out or anything like that. It's just, can she keep, and can the studio keep the story interesting for 3 movies? I mean, because, you also have The Hobbit, which is divided into a trilogy. I've only seen the first part, so I can't comment on, like, The Desolation of Smaug, or, anything past An Unexpected Journey. However, I'm guessing, and I've been told by people who've read the book, that The Hobbit being cut into a trilogy, a trilogy, wow, The Hobbit being cut into a trilogy was not the best idea, because The Hobbit is a long book, but there's just not enough there to warrant 3 complete movies. It may slow down in parts. Again, I don't know. I've heard great things about Desolation of Smaug, and I really liked the first one, but I don't know. It's hard to gauge this with a trilogy that is not based off of a source material, because we really haven't had that yet. Because we've had, again, as I mentioned, Twilight, Hunger Games, Hobbit, Harry Potter. They're all based on book series. This is going to be an interesting one. I think this is one we're really going to have to watch out for and just see what it's like building up to the first one and what the first film in the series brings to the table. Are you pretty burnt out on Marvel's Avengers films? Well, rare person, today is not a good day for you. Marvel President Kevin Feige stated in a recent interview that there are currently plans to continue making Marvel films until 2028. It was also announced that there are potential plans for spin-off characters starring the new characters we will meet in Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers Age of Ultron. These are not concrete plans, however. They are currently being looked over by the heads at Marvel, and there is no word as to when we will get official confirmation. Boy, I do not know what to think about this one. I mean, I have yet to see a Marvel film that I didn't like, and actually I think I just gave away a little bit of spoilers to my opinion of the movie I'm reviewing this week. One guess on what movie I'm reviewing. However, I don't know. I think Marvel definitely has the potential to keep it interesting for, 14 more years? But I think at some point it is going to get overblown. It is going to get to the point where people are going to be going, okay, maybe they should wrap this up. But they've done a great job so far. I mean, what is this, 6 years so far of Marvel movies? We've had, we've had 1 or 2 a year so far. Now it's, more like 2. And it's staying consistent, and it's staying consistently interesting. I think it helps that a lot of the cast has remained the same. Most of the cast, they're really getting comfortable in their roles, and the crew is kind of getting comfortable with these characters and these environments. So that may factor into it being actually a smart idea to keep it going, because Marvel movies are very profitable. You will never see a Marvel movie flop at the box office, or especially bomb. However, again, it's just, can they keep the same people and the same momentum going for 14 more years, or will they get burnt out? That's the question. But I'm leaning more towards the former as of right now. But again, it's way too early to be speculating something like that. The casting is just about complete for 20th Century Fox's reboot of the Fantastic Four to come out next year. Toby Kebbell, star of such films as Rock'n'Rolla, Warhorse, and the upcoming Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, has been cast as Doctor Doom, known in this version as Victor Van Dam. Kebbell will star alongside Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Michael B. Jordan, and Jamie Bell, all of whom are set to portray the titular heroes. Fantastic Four is said to be based on the Marvel comic The Ultimate Fantastic Four, and will see the characters as their younger selves. The film is set for a June 19th, 2015 release. I'll admit right off the bat, I actually don't know who Toby Kebbell is. This is the first time I've seen his name. I have not seen Rock'n'Rolla or Warhorse or any of the other films that he's been in. As far as him, I think his track record has been questionable because he's also been in some not so good stuff. I wish I had the list in front of me because I'm blanking on what the movie was that I wanted to bring up. But anyway, the real reason that I bring this up is because it gives me a chance to talk about the Fantastic Four, what the plot's going to be like, because it's based off of the Ultimate Fantastic Four. The characters are going to be younger. And honestly, I'm one of the few people, I think, that I actually really liked the Fantastic Four from like the early 2000s, the one with Chris Evans and who was that? Jessica Alba, and I'm blanking on a lot of stuff today. I'm just horrible. But anyway, I really liked that movie. I didn't see Rise of the Silver Surfer, but I really liked the original one. I actually own it, and I still watch it every now and then. But I think it'll. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the comics, but I really did like how that film set up the Fantastic Four, set up the heroes, set up Doctor Doom. So to see them younger, to see them, they're already pretty young in the Fantastic Four film that I was referencing. However, I honestly don't know what to think, because I don't know. I don't know if I want to see them as their younger selves, because I think the age that they were at in the early 2000s Fantastic Four was pretty perfect. I mean, they were like, what, 20s, 30s, something like that. You go much younger than that, I feel like it's going to be awkward. And especially, like looking at like Michael B. Jordan, for example, he is pretty young, and especially with how he'll look in the film, I'm sure he'll look younger than he is. It's going to, what is it going to be, like teenagers running around? I don't know how that's going to work. But then again, you know, if there's any listeners who are comic book fans, I'm sure I'm totally, you know, going against canon in the comic books. I'm sure that it works out for the Ultimate Fantastic Four this is based on. It's just me personally, I don't know if I would like that. But if you guys, the comic book community, has faith in it, I'm sure I will too. After shocking everybody by shelving his latest project earlier this year, director Quentin Tarantino may slowly be leaning toward releasing it after all. Variety announced this week that Film Independent will host a live reading of the script for The Hateful Eight, the film that Tarantino shelved. The film's production was shut down a few months ago after the gossip blog Gawker leaked the movie's script without Tarantino's approval. Tarantino has since issued a copyright infringement lawsuit against Gawker. The live reading will take place on April 24th at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art's Bing Theater. Meanwhile, a hearing is scheduled for April 14th for the lawsuit, with a January 27th, 2015 trial date. Honestly, the big reason why I included this story is because I never really got a chance to comment on what happened with Tarantino and the Hateful Eight script before. Tarantino's always been a director that I respect greatly. I respect the hell out of this guy, and I absolutely love all of his movies. However, I respect him, but I also fear him, and not in, I mean, I fear him in terms of respect, but I fear him also in terms of actually being scared of him, because he is a guy with a temper. Anyone who's seen him in interviews knows this is a guy that can get worked up very easily. So honestly, it was no surprise to me when The Hateful Eight got pulled after the script was leaked. That seems like a Tarantino reaction. He's a very rash, abrasive guy. And honestly, I felt like it was the right thing to do. I was disappointed because, like I said, I love all of his films. I always look forward to a Tarantino film. Django Unchained was one of my favorite movies of the last half decade, maybe more. And so I was really looking forward to a new Tarantino project. However, I understand totally where the guy's coming from with the lawsuit and everything, and I fully support him. I think that someone's work, someone's art is very precious, and it should not be treated with disrespect. They should not have to fight to preserve their work, and they should not have to fight to keep it from being released before they want it to. So I fully support Tarantino, and I'm really glad that he is giving a live reading of the script. I'll get into that now. Some sources have speculated that this is an attempt to kind of gauge audiences' reactions, and then maybe he'll rework the script, so then it's not exactly like what Gawker leaked. And I think that would work too. I mean, I would love to see the film in its original form. I'm sure it would have been more of classic Tarantino. But if a rewrite is in order in order to keep his artistry and to keep his integrity intact, then more power to him. But yeah, as far as the trial, I fully support him 110%. All right, now let's get into trailer corner. First trailer we have is the second trailer for the Expendables 3, which is coming out on August 15th. I'll admit right now I have yet to see the second Expendables, and I know I know I need to rectify that because I love the first Expendables. I'm not even someone who's really big on action, but I really adore the Expendables, and I mean, just take that. I mean, someone who isn't that big of an action guy, who is sometimes really, this is going to sound bad, but really bored by action. I mean, especially action nowadays with all the shaky cam, with all the incoherent fighting. It's really easy for me to get lost, and that's why I don't like action films, or if I do watch action films, it's from, the 90s or before. Typically it's 80s action. And so for someone like me to say The Expendables is awesome and it always kept my interest, and I loved everything about that movie, that's something. And so I'm really excited about The Expendables 3. I always love the trailers. The trailers always are very exciting. They're epic. They're just badass. And I love the new additions, Mel Gibson and Harrison Ford especially. I feel like they're going to bring a lot to the table, and it's, again, going to be a lot of fun. The trailer also showcased some of the newcomers, none of whom I'm really familiar with, but I think that's why they're newcomers. But they seem to be fitting in pretty well. They seem like they're having a good time, and that's really what all these films are about. They're about action stars getting together and just having a good time, kicking some ass, and that's why these movies are so great. So I am definitely really looking forward to this one. Next up, we have Lucy, starring Scarlett Johansson. It's the first trailer, and this is going to be hitting theaters on August 8th. I was really happy. I actually saw this trailer in front of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I saw this weekend, and I was really intrigued. I'm a big Scarlett Johansson fan, and not just for the obvious reasons. I mean, yes, she is hot as hell, but as an actor, I think she's great. I'm a really big fan. I loved her in Her, the Spike Jonze movie from last year. I thought she was fantastic. This movie actually reminds me, and a few people have brought this up, the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro. It has a very similar concept about a drug that allows you to access the parts of your brain that you normally can't, and one person becomes kind of obsessed, and so on and so forth. So it definitely reminded me of that, but I love that movie, and I really like that concept. I think there's a lot that you can do with it, and this doesn't look like a copy of Limitless in any way. I mean, okay, somewhat, but it seems like it's doing a lot more with it than Limitless did. Because Limitless dealt a lot with the addiction of it and just getting hooked on this drug just like any other, strong drug. However, Lucy seems to be dealing more with just the idea of power. there's this sense that Scarlett Johansson is just there's no limit to her power. There's no limit to the impact that she can have on the world around her, and it's just kind of her learning how to deal with that. It's great to see Morgan Freeman in this. I'm not sure, the trailer's not specific at all what his role in the film is, but from what you're able to see, it looks really cool, and it looks like he's having a lot of fun. So that's always a plus. But yeah, it's another one I think I'm really going to look forward to. All right, trailer number 3 is Adam Sandler's new comedy Blended. It's the second trailer. This is going to hit theaters on May 23rd. Here I'm a little bit biased because the last Adam Sandler movie I saw, the last new one, was That's My Boy, which I thought was horrendous. Oh my goodness. I was not a fan. Which is a shame because I love Andy Samberg as a member of the Lonely Island, and I loved him on SNL. He's just not, I don't think he's cut out for the big screen, and That's My Boy was proof of that. Although Blended seems to harken back to another Adam Sandler movie, which I actually like. A lot of people didn't, but I actually enjoyed Just Go With It. It's a movie I thought I was going to hate, but it actually turns out that it's one of my favorite romantic comedies. Granted, I hate the majority of romantic comedies, so that's not saying much. But yeah, it was definitely a surprise for me, and I ended up really enjoying it. Nick Swartzen aside. And this film seems to have a lot to do with it. But I also have to backtrack again and say it's Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. And I know they were great in The Wedding Singer. Actually, I haven't seen The Wedding Singer. I know. So my only exposure to these two working together was 50 First Dates, which is, in my opinion, one of the most insulting and enraging movies of all time. So that puts me... That and the fact that the last Adam Sandler movie I saw was That's My Boy leads me more towards the side of negative. But I'm really hoping it's a return to the old Adam Sandler days. It kind of looks like there's a semblance of that here. It's definitely one of his less annoying movies of recent times. So who knows? It might be fun. It also looks really stupid. We'll just have to see. But I'm skeptical. Next up, we have a new Robin Williams film hitting theaters and video on demand on May 23rd. It's called The Angriest Man in Brooklyn. This trailer is kind of hard to watch for me because, I'm sorry, Robin Williams cannot pull off genuine anger. In this trailer, it kind of looks like he's almost doing a stand-up routine or an imitation of someone being angry. That and the premise of he only has 90 minutes to make up with everybody, it seems a little bit absurd. Like, how are they going to handle that? Especially if the movie's more than 90 minutes. But, I mean, how are they... Especially with all the events they show in the trailer. Like, he's making up with his brother. He wants to make love to his wife one more time. He wants to have this big dinner with all of his friends and family. How on earth are they going to squeeze all that into 90 minutes? I'm hoping the film is a little more... is a little more proactive in explaining that, because this trailer just didn't. It really made me go, huh? I don't know. This is a tough one for me, as you can probably hear. I'm kind of struggling a little bit. I feel like Robin Williams is trying a little too hard to go back to the glory days of his film career, the 80s and 90s, when he was all over. And now he's just doing this kind of really tired, bitter guy who has to learn family values and the value of love and friendship and all that. And which is, I mean, that... First of all, Robin Williams himself has done that. And that concept itself has, of course, been done to death. So that's why I say it looks like he's trying too hard to just play it safe and hopefully get a hit. But, I'm still rooting for the guy. I still love Robin Williams. When he's good, he's great. So I'm hoping that's what happens here, but it really doesn't look like it. And our final trailer of the week is the first trailer for James Gandolfini's final film before his tragic death. It's called The Drop, and it's dropping on September 19th. Alright, I have to admit something that's probably going to get me a lot of heads shaking and maybe some negative comments. I'm not all that familiar with James Gandolfini. I know I should familiarize myself with his work, but just know that from the little bit I have seen of him, I think he's great. I have nothing against the guy. It's not that I don't like him. I just haven't had a whole lot of exposure to his work. But again, from what I've seen, he is a great actor, and I've seen enough to where I am able to respect him a lot. So that's why I included this trailer. I know he's great, and I know he's going to be. I know he's missed greatly. I am familiar with Tom Hardy, mostly through Dark Knight Rises, but I know he's great. I know I'm a fan of his. Honestly, this just looks like a great crime movie, a great mob movie, and it looks like it's going to be really interesting. I thought it looked interesting. I thought it looked exciting. I love the concept of, they keep basically this crime boss's money at the bar, then the bar is robbed, and now basically these guys have to find the money or get the money back to him, to the boss. Otherwise, shit's going to go down. I thought it was a really cool concept, and I think it definitely looks like a great way to, have a send-off for James Gandolfini. So this is definitely one that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm hoping I can get around to catching it on the big screen. That'll wrap it up for this week. Links to the full stories from today's show, as well as the full trailers discussed this week, are all in the description below. I'm going to leave you tonight with a new song from progressive rock band Asia. Remember those guys with Only Time Will Tell and Heat of the Moment from the 80s? Well, they just released a new album this week. It's called Gravitas. Go pick it up. It's definitely worth a listen. Here's the first track off the album. It's called Valkyrie. Check it out, and I will see you guys next week. Till then.
Like a mist through the trees, across the battlefield, she is born upon the breeze. She's drawn to where I kneel. There is no doubt she comes for me. Peace at last.